everybody. My name's Ellisa Cooper, and this is Cooking in Quarantine, the 100th episode. So, hello, everybody. I see that I've kind of got a little wonk on my camera here, so let me get that straightened out a little bit. See if this is a little better here. Sorry for the mess and the mix-up, but let's move a few things out of the shot that I didn't realize you could see and say hello to everybody. It is our 100th episode. You still can't see the top of my head, so that's no good. What happened to my camera last night, I wonder? How about this? Is that a little better? Let's start again. Hi, my name is Ellisa Cooper, and this is the 100th episode of Cooking in Quarantine. So we're going to be making today my dream meal. Sadly, I spent a lot of time this morning out on what I'd like to call a wild quail's egg chase because I couldn't find quail's eggs. You know, there's nothing better than a little bit. Well, first of all, you should probably know that my favorite meal is steak tartare, perfect French fries with mayonnaise and champagne. That is absolutely my favorite meal in the world. So I have never made French fries like real live par fried French fries from scratch. I've never made steak tartare from scratch because I lived in New York for 30 years, and who needs to make their own French fries and steak tartare when there are a million French people surrounding me? So hello, Kel, how are you, darling? So here we go. Like I said, I've been on a wild quail's egg chase. So I am way behind in my to-dos this morning. I thought I was so ahead of the game, but my little liquor store downstairs that always carries my favorite Pierre Peters suddenly today has no bottle of Pierre Peters. So that said, my shout out to any friends out there who work at Rosenthal, because we have a bottle of Roger Poulon in the fridge cooling off, and we'll be drinking that baby any second now. I have out all the things that I need for my steak tartare. My pound of filet is in the freezer because cutting it down is going to be 1,000 times easier if it's cold. Your knife will run through it better. Let me turn off the ringer on my phone before the people start calling, you know, all those people who don't actually have phone numbers. So now I guess what is the time to do is I got up this morning and I cut my French fries and I put them into a bowl of cold water, put them in the fridge, and then I poured that water off a couple of times and kept them in the fridge. What you want to do is get all that starch out. Then when I was trying to flip them off onto clean and dry things, I knocked these off into the floor where there's still some sugar, where I broke the sugar bowl 2 days ago. And so these are now back in the drying phase of making French fries. So what I should probably do is wrap them up into a dry paper towel so that they can dry while we start the next phase, which is par cooking the fries. Now this will be, without a doubt, the longest cooking in quarantine known to man, because when I left my house at 9:30 this morning, I literally expected that I would be back and dressed and par frying my fries at 11:30 at the latest. At 11:30 I realized I wasn't going to be able to get a bottle of Pierre Peters delivered to me cold, and things went south from there. So I am working really hard here to be a very upbeat and sunny Miss Ellisa, even though I am as mean as a snake on the inside. So there we go. Let's get some par frying going. Now, I do not have a candy thermometer, so I don't have any way to measure my oil. But as someone said to me last night, people have been making French fries for hundreds of, if not thousands of years without a thermometer. So let's see what happens. Step number one, I have grapeseed oil, which has a very, very high flash point, and I'm just going to pour that right in here into my heavy bottomed saucepan. And this could take all day, so let me do this. And let me take the slow pourer off because this is not a slow pouring day. And of course, I who've already cut my thumb am likely to take my hand off using that, so let's don't use that. I'm really just a lesson in what not to do. That's what cooking in quarantine is what not to cook in quarantine. Let's see if I can get this off. It probably would have already poured it all out by now if I had just stopped. Here we go. So I have, that gave me about an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other one. I talked to the porter in my building this morning about instituting a food recycling program, so I feel good about that. That's my good deed for the day. So tomorrow, it is Thursday, isn't it? I'm going to go and talk to the nice people at Union Square about what their expectations are for people bringing frozen garbage and such. So I'm hoping I can get that taken care of here in the next few weeks, and hopefully at least, if not make it better for the climate and the kinds of things that are mixed together in our landfills, hopefully we can at least have a little easier time for our wonderful porters who, think about it, is the stuff that comes down the chute and people are throwing flowers and food and garbage and paper and lady products, and that's just, nobody needs that. We need to separate stuff out. So that's my thing right now. It's going to be my new project. So I'm going to turn the heat on the oil, and we're going to try to bring this up to temperature. I am going to, hello Melissa, I am thinking that now is probably exactly the right time to reach down here. Oh yes. Happy centenary to me. So I'm very excited about this. Like I said yesterday, my very favorite champagne is Pierre Peter's Blanc de Blanc. I have had a bottle of it on my birthday many years. Another little thing that I like to teach people, this oil is getting very hot very fast, I can see. So I'm going to turn that down. You can already see in it here. That when you find a wine, especially a European or foreign wine that you like very much, they all have to have an importer of record. I don't know if you can see that because of all of the glare and such, but this says Rosenthal. And so when you find a European wine you love, look on the back and see who imports it, because in most cases, these companies are not big. You know, they are probably a group of 10 to 40 people at the most who are all working together, choosing the wines, running the portfolios, and so if you like one wine from an importer, you're very, very likely to like a lot of wines from that importer, because the same small group of people are making the choices on whether this Sancerre or that Sancerre, this Montlouis or that Montlouis, this champagne or that champagne. So here we go, and beautiful. You can see just the little tiniest touch of pink in here. So let's see. Champagne Premier Cru. This is a really nice wine. So let's quick look it up and see what's actually in my glass. By the way, today I woke up this morning and the first thing that I sat down to write, I realized I couldn't spell the word bodhisattva. So I looked it up, and since then I've heard the Buddha mentioned 3 times. So I'm waiting for my enlightenment to come today and get rid of all of this mess in my head. So Roger Coulon, Coulon, Henri, Henri, Hodie. Oui. Okay, so this wine is, here we go, let's go to the Madro site and see what they say about this. Let's see. Okay, my oil is not hot here, so I'm going to consider it still working on its thing. Let's go to the text sheet, and let's see what we've got here. This wine is no chaptalization or acidification. That's good. Let's see. This winemaker is a member of a very small group of very exclusive winemakers: Egliurier, Larmandier, Bernier, Jacques Celos, Prévost, and Jacques Casson. Those are all exceptional winemakers. I still am trying to see what where are we? What is in this? Oh, Chardonnay ferments spontaneously in barrels of various shapes and sizes. Pinot Meunier and Pinot Noir ferment spontaneously in stainless steel tanks and barrels of various shapes and sizes. Half of the Meunier is destined for the rosé production because they do make a rosé champagne. So there we go. Now we know what we have. And we're about to put this back in the cold because we don't want to ruin our champagne. And where am I looking it up, Kelly? On Mad Rose site, that's madrose.com, is the Rosenthal website. Oh, baby, it smells like spring. You know how you walk out on that first beautiful, cool but warm day of spring and the air is fresh and it makes you think of, I always think of that there are certain wines that make me think of still being a young girl who looks pretty in a white dress on a summer day. Now, of course, I've brushed my teeth recently, so never judge anything by that. All right, so let's see if I can see where my oil is. I think this heat is going to have to come up a little bit because I think that this is probably, I do have a meat thermometer so I can at least see if I'm over 200 degrees. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is coming up slow because it's sort of holding at 80 here. My oil is not hot enough, for sure. All right, so I can definitely turn this heat back up a little higher and let it get a little warmer. So another thing, I was a huge Anthony Bourdain fan. I still am. And I have not been able to, since his passing, watch his show, look at him without being verklempt. So today I am making his steak tartare from Leal. So, Andre, if you're out there and watching, cheers to all of you guys and the people at the Leal team. And let's see how this oil is coming up. Are we still at 80 degrees? This is really slow to warm up. Who knew? Now we're moving a little bit. We're up to almost 100. Okay, we're going to get to 120. I don't have any idea about oil because I never let a whole pot of oil get warm. So it looks like here we are just creeping up above 120. I think that's God's way of telling me I should drink a little bit more champagne. So, for those of you who have never worked in restaurants, making French fries properly is a 3-step process. You cut them, you soak them in water for at least a couple of hours, if not overnight, in cold water so that you extract as much of the starch out as possible. Then you need to lay them out on trays so that they get dry. You don't want any of that water on them, just like you pat meat dry. You don't want to put meat in an oily pan. It'll just splatter. You feel the same way about potatoes, right? So, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and let me just check here, that I'm going to do this right. So, we're going to do that to the potatoes, and then we're just going to blanch them in oil for 3 minutes, and we're going to set them out over here again and let them drain. And then we're going to get the oil hotter after these have drained and come back to room temperature and cook them again. In between the two fries, we're going to make some steak tartare. So, let's see how we're doing oil temperature over here now. I'm going to crank it up. I gotta say, this is not moving. I would think that it would just shoot towards 200, right? But it's just taking its own slow time. Of course, I have the AC on like 60 degrees over here because I knew I would get hot standing here today. And, good grief, this is slow to creep up. Yeah, I do not think that this is anywhere close to being warm enough because it's only creeping towards 180, creeping towards 200. So to get this oil to the 325 that it needs to be, see, I would not have had the patience to wait. Maybe I do need a candy thermometer if I'm going to be a good fridge fry maker. So I'm going to drink some more. That said, if anybody wants to make some steak tartare with me, I found on the Food Network this Anthony Bourdain recipe. So it calls for egg yolks, Dijon mustard, anchovy fillets, ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, Tabasco sauce, pepper, salt, salad oil. See, I think I've got everything out and I really don't. Do I have enough there? Yes, I do. Cognac. I don't have cognac, but I've got some brandy. I've always got a little brandy for deglazing pans. And then an onion. You know what? I might still have a, nope, I don't. An onion. Here we go. We've got to chop that up in a little bit. We need capers, cornichons, parsley, and then it calls for high quality sliced bread. So while I was out on my quail's egg fiasco this morning, I got the best bread available in New York. Oh, I'm starting to hear my oil make noise. That might be a good sign. Let's see what happens when I put a fry in it. A real thin one, because I'm not very good at... Yeah, no, that doesn't seem to have any impact at all. So I'm just going to set that aside and walk away from the noisy thing and say hi to everybody. Hello, Connie Howerton. Hello, Mackie. How are you? And Kelly, you can't stop drinking. We gotta go to the beach first. Then you can stop drinking, unless you intend to stop drinking for these 35 days and then drink like your life depends on it at the beach. So I'm very excited about that all. See, here's what happens. Unknown name. If you don't have a name, I don't want to talk to you. How about that? So my oil is still warming up. And let's see, let's get that test fry over here and see what happens to it when we put it in there. Yeah, I'm still not, oh, there we go. Now we're starting to get some action. Okay. So now you need to do this in small batches because every time you put these cold potatoes in here, you're going to lower the temperature of your oil. And so I'm going to turn it just a little bit more. And I'm going to put about a handful of potatoes in each time. And I'm going to drop them in gently so that I don't, have to go to the hospital, because that, if you do recall, is the whole point of cooking in quarantine, is to stay the heck out of the medical system until we get through this crisis, right? So here we go, just a few French fries in there. I've got my tray here lined with paper towels. I'm going to get a couple of slotted wooden spoons here so that when my 3 minutes is up, I'm going to move them very quickly over here. And I'm barefoot, so that some kind of terrible, terrible thing is going to happen with my feet and the oil. And I think this needs to turn down a little bit, because that seems to be really cooking a lot. And seconds are long during this 3 minutes of par cooking, I do have to say. Maybe my oil is just too hot. Let's turn it down a little more. I'm learning. You're learning you're laughing while I'm learning, I'm I'm sure is what's happening here. Okay. We are getting there. Let's see what's happening here. What will happen? Yeah, these are starting to actually brown. So my oil is definitely too hot, because you don't want them to come out brown. You want them to come out sort of beige. But that's okay. Let's see what happens. I'm going to, if it kills me, follow the instructions today. I'm going to, by the way, my shirt says, if you don't read backwards, more love, more love, more love, more love, more love. And that is the one thing that everybody needs in this life, is a little bit more love. So I'm hoping that you guys will all be on board and say that maybe this is the new slogan for cooking in quarantine, more love. All right. So 55 seconds. I think this is going to be okay. I don't think that these are going to be overdone or browned. I think it was skin that I was saying made me think it was brown. So this is, I wish that you guys knew me well enough to know how hard it is for me to do this. I so want to speed this all up, and you guys are so sweet. Like I said, this is going to be like longer than the first Sunday back in the day when we were literally in quarantine. I think I stayed on for an hour and a half or something. But you'll watch me probably embarrass myself, probably do something foolish. But nonetheless, I'm going to learn how to do something that I am hopefully going to enjoy like crazy a little later in the day. And I think we're going to get to use my new Cuisinart today as well. All right, 4 seconds. All right, so let's take these babies out. And we're going to lay them on so that they have plenty of room in between them and can drain. Okay. Beautiful. And then we have to wait a few seconds here and let this oil come back up to heat, right? A little bit. So I'll go back to, oh, here's my test fry. Yep, nope, that's not frying. So let's just wait. Oh, this seems like a really good excuse for me to pour a little bit more champagne in my glass and see who else is here. Let's see. Want 300 for now and 400 for final. See, there's Kelly. I have friends who know what they're talking about. And hello, Mick. And thank you for the congratulations. And hello, Denise, darling. It's so good to see you here. And let's see. So, where's my little French fry? Nope, that's not ready yet. I did turn the heat way down low. Pardon me. Ta-ta. So now the next time you're in a restaurant and you go $9 for French fries at the Dutch, remember, the Dutch is the best French fries in New York City. They're perfect every time, and it's worth every penny of the $9, because look at how long this is going to take me to make a batch of French fries properly, right? And I haven't even gotten the mayonnaise out of the jar yet. So, beautiful. Oh man, sometimes a bottle of champagne is all it takes. You know that I am a big bubbles drinker, but a bottle of champagne is different than just a glass of bubbles sometimes, and it's absolutely worth the extra few bucks, I think. Okay, this has still got to come up hotter again. All right, give it just a second. I guess I could kind of start measuring out all of my stuff for my steak tartare, because I didn't do those things, which I normally do before we get going, because I was on a quail's egg hunt. There we go. Now it's working. So let's get some more fries here going. These are my ones that have to dry a little bit more. Ta-ta. Let's drop these babies in here. That's nice. Let's start the timer. Get these going. This is going to take probably 3, maybe 4 batches to do my 3 Yukon Gold medium size, not huge potatoes. I did not put huge potatoes. I had ones that were about this size. I took them and went 6 slices on my mandolin so that they would be flat on all 6 sides, and then cut them with the knife and cut them with the knife to make my sticks. So these are not perfect. I wish that I had one of those potato extruders that shot them through and made them perfect. I think I need to turn this down a little bit. There we go. And give these a little move about. Perfect. I'm also going to make a little more room on my drain because I'm not going to have this one ready yet. And we'll start working on the steak tartare as soon as the last batch of fries goes in. You guys are really kind to sit here and listen to me all this time while I do this. But a couple of things that I've thought about. My wild quail's egg chase. I live in Manhattan. I live in what at one point in time was the zip code with the most black Amex cards in the world. So I live in a very Tony neighborhood. I am not rich. My neighbors are. But I have in the 30, well, not the whole 30 years, because New York was kind of a cesspool when I moved here 30 years ago. But since it became Disney World, I never worry about finding something I need or am looking for. But in the last week, I've had to go to 3 or 4 places before I finally found paper towels. One day last week, I was at Whole Foods, and there was a limit on the number of milk, egg, and other dairy products anyone could buy. You guys, that's called rationing. That is no different than what our parents lived through, our grandparents lived through during World War II. That is no different than what we looked down our noses at the Soviet Union for putting their people through during our childhood when we rightly remembered that the Soviet Union was our greatest enemy. We are, every time you walk into your store and go, wow, there's no hamburger. That's rationing. You guys, we're in a bad way, and we don't seem to notice or care. And the fact that in New York City, I can't find basic stuff. You know, it's funny, when I came home and texted somebody and said, I've been on a wild quail's egg chase, that person said, oh, did so-and-so in Koreatown not have it? And I'm like, I literally didn't get up early enough to make it to Koreatown to buy quail's eggs today, because I am accustomed to being able to go into a fairly Tony grocery store. Heck, I have 2 Whole Foods in under a mile from me. So those kinds of things are, you know, our new normal that we have allowed to sneak up on us, and we have learned to accept. And should we accept that? Now, did we deserve all that we have had all of these years? You know, I think that that's kind of what we talk about American exceptionalism, is that we think we're really awesome, and that way that means that we can explain why we deserve more bathrooms than anybody else in the world per person, and more cars in the world than anybody else per person, and more this and that, even though we are required to work harder, we have no health insurance, we have less vacation, we're encouraged not to take our vacation time, all kinds of things. So as you can see, this is going to be a rant day, because what else am I going to do? So I'm going to get these last little batch of dried potatoes over here, because we're going to have to make a nice little part for them here. And are there any par dried? No, that was maybe yesterday's. I'm trying not to use so many paper towels, but nonetheless, here we go. And while we're waiting for this oil to heat back up, here's my test fry. Yep, no action. Guys, this is my new favorite thing. Have a test fry. That's the way you'll know whether your oil is hot enough. I'm so pleased. Learning little tricks. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So I have, those of you who grew up in my hometown probably know my favorite cousin, and I refer to her as my favorite auntie. Even though she wasn't my aunt, she was my grandfather's first cousin. I thought of her as my favorite auntie, Elsie Butcher. And when Elsie, I just happened to be at home when it was her 100th birthday. Now I have an enormous number of Cooper relatives and ancestors who lived to be centenarians. And when I saw Elsie, when I came up to see her and say hello at her birthday, my mother said to her, Elsie, I had just told this to my mother, and so my mother tells it to Elsie. I've always been the family genealogist, and I have found that especially on the Swedish side of my family, I have ancestors who lived into their 90s in the Middle Ages. So my mother said that to Elsie, Ellisa has good news and bad news. That being a Cooper means the good news is you're never going to die, and the bad news is you're never going to die. So her brother still lives and still works every day and has a girlfriend who's 15 years younger, even though he's 105 years old. So these are my ancestors. And so centenary, the word, means a lot to me, because even though I'm 53, I'm pretty confident I've got another 50 years unless I really do something terrible. And I'm the girl who gave up fast food 30 years ago. So, Lord have mercy. Centenary. It's a big word, isn't it? All right, so I've got my second tray ready, and I've probably overcrowded this pan, but for the Lord's sake, we've been here for a half an hour just making the par-fried French fries. All right. Oh, and this is too hot. I can tell I didn't turn it down. Boom, boom. Excellent. So that's coming along. Now, what do we need to do to get ready to make our steak tartare? The first thing we have to do is to make the mix, right? So that mix requires 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, and all of this wet stuff is going to go in my little guy here, because I want to make this. Even though it says to whisk, I'm going to pulse, because I have a new fancy Cuisinart. I'm very excited to use it. So excited. And for those of you who work with me here, when I started looking and coveting this Cuisinart about a year ago, it was $185, and I got it for $70. $69 actually. Excellent. So I'm going to put I'm watching my clock. It's still working. Good. I need 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. And I'm not going to measure them like a geek. I'm going to eyeball it like me. 1, 2. That is 2. And I need 4 anchovy fillets. Boom. I guess if you didn't have anchovy fillets in the house, you could put a couple, probably a tablespoon of anchovy paste, right? Look at those little bastards. Pardon my language. Let's get these little babies out. My dad used to eat these just like, well, used to, I'm talking about him like he's not alive anymore. My dad loves anchovies. And, the reality of anchovies is that they bring just a lot of umami and saltiness into things, right? So I'm trying to get that last anchovy fillet out. This is going to be a 5 anchovy fillet because I couldn't separate the last 2. And I am seconds for my last of the French fries. This is awesome, guys. I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. Next, ketchup. 2 teaspoons of ketchup. So just a little bit of ketchup, not too much. Is this open? I don't even have these work anymore. This is brand new. I normally buy Hunt's because Books Illustrated says that all of their taste tests show that Hunt's wins, even though Heinz is the biggest seller. But Heinz is the biggest seller because Hunt's is not available everywhere. Okay, so let's get these last few fries out of our thing. Excellent. Go. Try to do this with 2 hands, it might be quicker. I mean, like really, when I do stupid stuff like this, I can't believe that you guys stick around. You've got 2 hands and you don't use them. Here we have it. Let that oil drip off. Make sure that they're not crowding each other. Go, beautiful. A couple left to go. 1, 2. And the last one. All right, so here are these babies. They're going to get set aside. And frankly, I'm going to turn the oil off because why not? I can bring that back up when it's time, because after I get the Tartare Mayo, I'm probably going to stick it aside and let it cool off a little bit. Sit back, have a glass of wine before I actually tuck in, refry the fries, and sit down to eat. Although yesterday I realized that I've been doing intermittent fasting. I'm supposed to be eating noon to 8. And yesterday at 5:30 I hadn't eaten at all. And do you know what it's like to try to jam a day's worth of eating into the last couple of hours of your day? Random. It was not a good plan. I ate way too much, way too late in the day. All right, so what we're also going to put into this little thing, we said a couple of teaspoons of ketchup. I'm going to call that 1 teaspoon. I'm going to call that 2 teaspoons. Done. Next, we need a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Let's do that. Let's use this to get the rest of the mustard to... I love Worcestershire sauce. You can hardly ever have too much of it. When I'm really hungry, like if I've been out all day, I'm super, super hungry, I will just take a little shot of either Worcestershire sauce or soy sauce, and because it is so flavorful, it lights up all the flavors and the pleasure centers in your brain. It fools you for a short period of time into thinking you're not hungry, and you cannot be so miserably hungry for the next half hour while you're actually getting some food together. Next, Worcestershire sauce and Tabasco sauce. Like I said, I don't Tabasco. I Trappies. Red Devil. And next, what do we have? We need some pepper. There we go. A little black pepper. Okay. Now, this tells me, I've got to flip over now, guys, just for a second because I have to see. Again, I'm making something I've never made before. So I'm going to put the egg yolks and add the mustard, anchovies, ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, tobacco, mix. Okay. So I'm going to put the eggs, and it's just egg yolks. So I'm going to put egg yolks. I got to separate those babies. Let's get that going. And let's put this up here. There it goes, beautifully. And we're going to grab this, which makes it easy to separate eggs. So now, guys, when you're doing something that calls for an egg yolk, a raw egg yolk, always, 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 always make sure that they're fresh. Make sure that they are organic, no pesticides, no herbicides. Like, get spring for the $6 eggs. Do not buy the $2 eggs if you're going to be eating them raw. Or do like me and go on a quail's egg fiasco all morning long trying to find quail's eggs. So anyway, oops. That egg yolk, but I think I can. No, I'm not going to salvage that egg yolk. I want a whole egg yolk, a proper egg yolk. So sometimes it happens. You mess up an egg yolk and you get another one. So quick, new organic egg. Boom, boom. Let's try to separate that baby properly. Here we go. That's better. Here we go. just want to break these little egg yolks. But I just don't want too much albumin in there. Boom, there we go. Set that aside. So now, okay. And then how much cognac do I need? I can't remember. Cognac, 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 cognac. This needs to be on not two sides, but okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I need a 1/4 cup of that. Oh, I feel like a crazy person today. 1/4 cup of oil. Boom. Okay. And then I need cognac. Okay. And I'm going to need some onion here before too long. So let's just cut up a little onion. Now, flip this back around. I need an ounce of cognac. What an asinine thing to say about that. How about a teaspoon or a tablespoon? Or give me a second and my math will kick into my brain and I will remember how to turn ounces into teaspoons, tails, and such. But my brain isn't working full force right now today because I need to get 2 ounces of capers. And they need to be dry. So I'm going to take them. How many capers is in here? This is 7 ounces of capers. So 2 ounces of capers is a substantial amount. So, capers. I love capers. And I'm going to call that 2 ounces of capers. And do I need to cut up my cornichons? Oui. I have to cut up my cornichons. You should always have some cornichons in your house. And here we go. 1, 2, let's see. To make it look like that same amount that I have in capers, I think it's going to take 5 or so. And let's chop these little babies right up. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Maybe I'll be on for 100 minutes here on my 100th show. Who knows? Let's see. I'm going to cut those little wonky ends off because I just don't know. I think I'm gonna. Okay. I'm gonna cut these babies up. Cut these babies up. Cut them up. Okay, so those are in ringlets, and now we're going to make them into tiny little bits. Chop, chop, chop. Chop, chop, chop. Chop, 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 chop. Yes, so I am one of those people that sings for no reason. And you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it. If you don't like the way I sing, don't come to my house. Don't watch my show. That's the way I feel about things, because the best part about getting old, turning 50, is not caring that somebody thinks that you should be skinnier than you are, or somebody thinks that you should be quieter or take up less space or do things differently than you do. You know what? I've lived 50 years and I've been pretty good at it. I have friends from every part of my life. I literally have friends that I have been friends with as long as I have been alive. I can't think of anything in this world that is more indicative of a life well lived. That the people that you have met, the people that you have encountered in this life want to keep you in your life. Is there anything more? I feel so honored every time I look up and see that, like today, there's Kelly, who I've known for 30 years, and there's Mackie, who I've known for at least 25 years. And there's Connie Howerton, who I've probably known for as long as she's been married. So that's what, about 47 years? Those kinds of things are really, really important to me. Okay, I've got my cornichon. I need 4 sprigs of my parsley. What a weird and precise thing. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cut those up really, really well. Now, I'm not going to have to cut these up as well as maybe you might think, because we're not whisking. I'm using my little machine. It'll probably screw everything up because it'll be way too powerful. It'll all turn to some kind of crazy, super tight thing that will never whip into my meat. But anyway, here we go. I'm just getting that small enough so that when it's time to add that to all this other stuff I'm going to be putting in, it's ready to go. Okay, here we go. Here's my big old pretty baby. Ain't she beautiful? I don't want to get her dirty on the bottom, so let me make sure she's just a nice clean thing to sit on. Here we go. Oh, it's in the wind. It's in the... Okay, and this is strange. It's nowhere where it can... I have to move everything around a little bit. Oh my Lord, how funny is this? It needs a longer... There we go. Longer. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to that off the spoon. Lick it off my finger. If you were the top to this, where would you be, do you think? I bet you it's in the other room. Let's go see. Yep, there it is. Here we go. Which could possibly mean it's not actually been washed yet. So let's give it a rinse. There we go. Take this piece out. There we go. And this is so exciting. All right, guys, you're here for the inauguration. Those of you who were here the other day, you heard me turn it on. Oh, silly me. I'm doing it with no blade in there. Let's try this again. Tiny blade. Okay. See how silly I am. There we go. Here we go. That's better. This is better, and good. Now, after I do this, hang on, I gotta flip it over. I'm actually using a recipe today. So after I've added the mushrooms, the ketchup, Worcestershire mix well. Okay, let's give it a little mix. Then I'm gonna whisk in the oil. Slowly. Slowly. Very good. And then it says add the cognac, so let's turn this off. And how much cognac did it ask for? I think an ounce, it said. I can figure that out if I can find the cognac. So then let's add a little cognac. But again, I'm using Brandy because that's just what I happen to have here. We'll call that an ounce. And then mix again. Okay. And then we're going to add onions, caper, cornichons. Onions, caper. Okay, so I'm going to put those right in there. Onions and the capers. No, that's the capers and the cornichon and the parsley. And now I need to dress the onion that I have not chopped at all. Here we go. Bada bing, bada bang. Root end off. Cut through the root end for me. Wrap her off. the wrapper off. I get the wrapper off. I get it off. Yeah, baby. Okay. So does this really ask for a whole? What does this ask for? How much does this want? 1 small onion, freshly and finely chopped. This is a lot of onion. This is a small onion, but that seems like way too much onion for me. So I'm going to finely chop. I'm going to put super fine lines long ways into it. Well, as fine as I can, because, you know, I'm not very good at this. But you guys get to watch and laugh at me, and I'm here for you. I am here for your amusement. Unlike Pesci, who does not like to be here for your amusement. Okay, so super duper 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 fine. Okay, that seems like more than enough onion for the meat that I have in the freeze. So I'm just gonna run my knife through it a tiny bit more to make sure I don't need big pieces, because nobody wants a big hunk of onion in their steak tartare, right? So let's grab this baby, make sure we don't get any. There's a couple pieces of skin. I certainly got those in there. Here we go. That seems like a lot of onion, but it's Anthony Bourdain's recipe, so I'm going to trust Anthony 100%. Here we go. He ate with Obama. It's all good. So I'm just going to pulse this in. I don't want to make it too small. This is going to need just a little bit of this. But this is really great. This is going to be the great mixture, but I am going to want it to sit and sit up a little before it goes into my meat. So, the only thing that really is left for today, other than, like I said, I want to set this up. I'm going to have to refry my fries, is to chop up the meat. So the reason that you put your filet in the freezer is so that it's just that much easier. Because what you're going to want to do is cut it into little tiny, like thick Korean barbecue. How the meat comes out on the platter, and then cut it again, and then cut it again, and then cut it again, cut it again. That's the whole deal about that, is to just keep cutting it. Now, have we been here an hour? We have been here almost an hour, and you guys are so great to stick with me. Anybody who's been here, I can't imagine anybody who has stuck around the whole time. But if you are, I love you even more, especially when I'm not even on the screen. So, guys, we've made our, just to make it clear what we've done today, I got up this morning, and my fries, I soaked them in the refrigerator in cold water several times to make sure that we got all the starch out. We have par fried them 3 minutes, and now I've made what we call tartare mayonnaise, right? It's egg yolk with, surely I can do this, hot sauce, Worcestershire, cornichons, capers, oil, cognac, and parsley. So I'm going to let this sit in the fridge and sit up a little bit. In a little bit, I will come back in here and do the second fry on my fries. I will chop up my meat. I will let this mix up together and with it, and then, it'll be a nice mid-afternoon giant Elisa's tipsy on champagne meal. But the reason I'm not going to finish it right now is that I do not like to finish meals when the kitchen is messed up like this. So I'm going to take about 15 or 20 minutes and tidy up my kitchen so that when I finally do come back in here and finish it all up, I'll have a lovely clean kitchen to come back to and put my pretty little plate into. I promise on Instagram later I will put pictures so that you can see what it looks like when I'm all done. And I can't believe that we're 100 in. And the best gift you could give me for my 100th is for every one of you who have already signed up to find one other person to subscribe to Decanted Diva. If you just go to YouTube and type in Decanted Diva, one word, it takes you straight to Cooking in Quarantine, to my Cooking in Quarantine, and to the page where you can, in one click, subscribe. Subscribe to me. You're my friends anyway. I'm going to love you regardless, but I love you anyway. So, guys, it's almost 7 months. We're into our 6.5 months of being here in a new, weird world where we live like it's the Soviet Union in the 70s. So, boys and girls, stock up on paper towels. Don't be gluttonous. Get 2. Make good food. Take care of your heart. Take care of your head. Take care of your family. Take care of your community. Find something good to do for somebody else today. You will feel better about yourself. I promise. Guys, I love you. Thank you for being here with me all of these 6 months and 100 episodes. And hello, Katie. Oh, I have a price tag on my shirt. Oh, because I forgot to take it off. There we go. I no longer have the price tag. That's too funny. I forgot to take my price tag off. I literally put it on over I just bought it yesterday. So I put it on over my bathrobe this morning. You know, just got to make sure everything fits properly. And dressing rooms are closed in stores. So I put it on over my dressing gown this morning. And when I went, oh, it fits, good. Then I just took off my bathrobe underneath it and went on. So thank you for the price tag warning. Oh, look, there's another one. Let's get that out too. Since I'm keeping it, I like it a lot. All right, that's good. That just goes to show you how far behind I was this morning after my quail's egg quest. Because in a perfect world, I would make my round of steak tartare today. I would take my thumb and push it right in the middle, and I would crack a quail's egg in the middle of it. And then when I sat down, I would fold that quail's egg into my perfect steak tartare. That's all, guys. So I've already told you what to do. You know what to do. Give blood. Give money to a good political candidate. Stand up for something good. Make some food and share with a homeless person in your neighborhood. Do something. Find something to make yourself meaningful in this world today. That's all. And like I said, my day today was I'm going to start I don't know if I have the words for it. Let me think about it. We're going to start composting in my building. That's what I mean to say. We're going to start composting in my building. Boom. I'm excited about it. See if you can start some kind of initiative where you live too. I love you all. Happy 100. See you next week.